Hello and welcome to UNews Weekly's 4th edition, coming to you from the UN Information Office in Uzbekistan in cooperation with all 9 UN agencies working in the country.
Today we are happy to inform you about the most important new news of the outgoing week in Uzbekistan. I'm Laila Fatih and
I'm Bobo Kamilov. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
So coming to you in this program, the global pandemic of violence against women and girls thrives in a culture of discrimination and impunity. We must speak out. Ban Ki-moon calls for a better protection of women's rights and gender equality in his message on 1 Billion Rising campaign. UN Women is the United Nations entity dedicated to gender equality and the empowerment of women. The agency supports the United Nations member states as they state global standards for achieving gender equality and works with government and civil society to design laws, policies, programs and services needed to implement these standards. As part of our Heads Up 2013 series, Damira Sartbayeva, the Regional Program Director of UN Women's Sub-Regional Office for Eastern Europe and Central Asia, talked about the agency's 3 priorities in 2013.
Just we work in rural area to help for rural women to improve their access to economic resources.
Tradition of excellence and international awareness. Tashkent School number 50 holds another Model UN, supported by the UN Information Office. This time's theme, Sustainable Development Goals.
Today I've been lucky enough to be a part of the UN model on the topic of Sustainable Development Goals.
And finally, what is biodiversity and why does it matter today to educate youth and ourselves on ways to preserve nature's pure self?
Today we're joined by Guzal Hojaeva, representative from UNDP, talking about biological diversity and the portfolio the agency has on the subject.
So biodiversity for all of us, it's variety of life forms. It's beginning from very, very small microorganisms or viruses and going through to complex organisms like plants and animals.
Launched in 2008, the United Nations Secretary-General's Unite to End Violence Against Women campaign aims to raise public awareness and increase political will and resources for preventing and ending all forms of violence against women in all parts of the world. On February the 14th, the Office of the Secretary-General of the United Nations, in unison with its Unite to End Violence Against Women campaign, observed 1 billion rising at headquarters in New York. And here is the message from the Secretary-General on this occasion. The global pandemic of violence against women and girls thrives in a culture of discrimination and impunity. We must speak out. That is why I launched my global Unite to End Violence Against Women campaign. As part of this, I am proud to emphatically raise my voice and join the chorus of all those taking part in the 1 Billion Rising campaign. But this must be more than a day of advocacy. It must be a day that triggers action. In less than 3 weeks, at the meeting of the Commission on the Status of Women, the world will gather at United Nations headquarters for the largest ever UN Assembly to end violence against women and girls. 18 governments have pledged to come to this historic gathering with new initiatives to stop gender-based violence by improving access to justice, ratifying international conventions, strengthening protection, toughening punishment, and enhancing prevention and education. They are part of UN Women Commit to End Violence Against Women and Girls initiative. By standing together, we can end violence against women and girls and build a world where all live free from harassment and fear. This will have benefits that reverberate far beyond the affected individuals as they become empowered to help create a better world. United Nations focuses on gender equality and women's empowerment not only because it's a human right, but also because they are a pathway to achieving the Millennium Development Goals. As part of our Heads Up 2013 series of the United Nations Information Office in Tashkent, this week we were joined by Damira Sartbayeva, who's the Regional Program Director of UN Women's Sub-Regional Office for Eastern Europe and Central Asia. And she talked to us about the agency's 3 priorities in 2013.
UN Women Sub-Regional Office for Eastern Europe and Central Asia works in Uzbekistan in threefold directions. And first direction, it's economic empowerment of women. And we are just our focus vulnerable groups of rural women. Just we work in rural area to help for rural women to improve their access to economic resources. It is financial credit, it is just business opportunities, and also business development, and also business management. And we are very happy that we are working with a Women's Committee of Uzbekistan, which undertaking just our approach of community mobilization, and it is very successful that just women coming into self-help groups working collectively to get credit. Just another big our appreciation to National Bank of Uzbekistan, which providing microcredits to women with 3% of interest rate. Also, just our major focus on SIDO implementation in Uzbekistan, and we are supporting civil society organizations, Women's Committee, and also some state organizations to implement SIDO in Uzbekistan. And especially we are very happy that Uzbekistan has national plan for implementation of SIDO concluding comments, and we are providing technical advice, we are providing financial support just for implementation of these SIDO concluding comments. Another one very interesting initiatives, it is implementation of women economic empowerment principles into private business. It is our just very interesting, innovative, I think, in Uzbekistan, initiatives on increasing social responsibility of private business, just for gender equality promotion. I think it would be very interesting. It will bring some very interesting results. I can tell that we are working, helping to private business on getting some gender awareness, and also providing technical advice for them to undertake and develop some gender-sensitive provisions, especially in practices and policies. I hope it will just bring big success for women of Uzbekistan.
As the world is deciding on its sustainable development goals, the younger generation all over the world is taking a lead on this by organizing roundtables and seminars. The Tashkent School number 50 has a tradition of international awareness, and particularly holding its very own home model UN seminars. This week, the seminar shifted its traditional focus from the Millennium Development Goals to Sustainable Development Goals. Our very own Nigina Haitova went to the school to talk to the teachers and the students to discuss the outcomes, the ideas, and the results of the seminar. Let's listen in.
Today, we had a wonderful opportunity to hold this Model United Nations Conference. 3 generations of the school's graduates participated in it. Our school number 50 has this tradition to carry out the MUNs, and we are very proud that it is one of the biggest achievements of the school. These conferences help to open new skills and talents in children. Our pupils enjoy acting with their speech, where they always introduce their personal opinion based on the position of the country which they represent. Moreover, they are also fond of discussing the most important issues and debating with their fellows on global questions. They work hard in searching for the necessary information and visit various consultations in order to learn more on the chosen topic. All these factors positively affect the development of the children.
Today in school number 50 was Model UN Conference on topic SDGs. I was the representative of the Republic of Uzbekistan. The conference was very interesting and productive for us.
Today I've been lucky enough to be a part of the UN model on the topic of Sustainable Development Goals. For me, that was not the first time I participated. I have been an active member of the UN model at my school for many years, and though I have graduated already, I'm keeping on participating in this amazing event. Today we had a special meeting, and for me it was quite unusual because that was absolutely another type of the UN model. I've never participated in such model before, and for many of my fellows it was strange as well. But I think we showed our best at discussing such economical, social and ecological problems, and I do believe that those decisions that we have taken today will have to reform and improve our modern society because it is in the need of rehab. And I also do believe that this model is really helpful to the younger generation. It helps us to become a better diplomats, to become a better human beings.
It is a first step on the way to reach sustainable future, where people do their best to find better solutions to the world's burning issues. Nigina Haitova, UNews Weekly.
Mainstreaming biodiversity into Uzbekistan's oil and gas sector policies and operations is a very innovative and progressive sphere of the country these days, I think, Leila, don't you?
Absolutely, I agree. It'll be great to invite a guest who will be talking about what is biodiversity and how through UNDP we are integrating this concept into, for instance, the operations of oil and gas in Uzbekistan.
Exactly. So it's now very high time for a special guest section. So our special guest is Ms. Guzail Khajaeva, who is the Program Associate of the Energy and Environment Unit of the UNDP. Welcome to our studio, Guzail.
Hello. Hi.
Our first question is the topic itself. It's biodiversity. And I've been looking at the profile, and there's huge and it's overwhelming amount of information. And there is quite an impressive portfolio of things you've done so far and the things you've been planning to do. But to start it off in a fairly neutral point, could you just tell us what biodiversity is in itself?
Okay, Lilo and Babur, thank you for inviting me for such an interesting discussion. And I think today is the most interesting topic because we are going to talk about life and organism which lives. So understanding the importance of conservation of biological diversity, Uzbekistan in 1995 has signed Convention on Biological Diversity. And since then, a lot of work had been done in the country itself and outside. And Convention is giving its own definition of biological diversity. And here today, I would like to talk a little bit in simple words. So biodiversity for all of us, it's variety of life forms. It's beginning from very small microorganisms or viruses and going through to complex organisms like plants and animals.
So biodiversity is basically life. It's everything that's around us.
Yes, it does. It's around us and it's promoting our health, first of all. And it's giving us to a food and also other supplements in our life.
So how can UNDP support this biodiversity? What do you do?
UNDP had been working a lot in this area and still continuing its work. For 6 years, UNDP, together with Global Environment Facilities and the government of Uzbekistan, had been implemented a project on conserving Tugay forest. It was also a very interesting experience for all of us, and I am emphasizing this project because it's resulted in forming, establishment of first biosphere reserve in our country, which responds to all requirements of civil strategy, which was adopted in 1995.
So this biosphere reserve is where located?
It's located in Karakalpakstan. At the moment, UNDP, together with government and Global Environmental Facility, is conducting 3 projects.
And these projects are being carried out in cooperation with national partners.
Exactly.
Right?
Only together with our government partners. This is one of the important aspect of our work, that the government is interested in its and in meeting its commitments under the convention.
I could imagine, because, Uzbekistan is such a big country in the Central Asian region.
Absolutely.
And we've got a very rich biodiversity in nature and everything, all the things you've mentioned that, that live and breathe and also serve as an important supplement to us, people living in this land.
So I think our listeners will be interested, Babar, to hear from Guzal on where exactly are we integrating biodiversity, in which sectors?
Yeah.
First, at the beginning of our work, we have been working exactly on only conserving biological diversity which placed in our country. But smoothly, we are moving toward cross-sectoral issues, and we are covering now the development together with conservation. And one of the best examples of such a collaboration and integration, the biological conservation issues into the development, like oil and gas development. It's one of the major sector development in our country at the moment, as you probably already know. And at the moment, we are running an interesting project. It's very complex, and it's also very unique. Integration of biological diversity conservation principles into the oil and gas sector of Uzbekistan. It's called like that. And it is a unique project in the Central Asia region, and the first project which have been initiated in a whole CIS country. And the second similar project is run by Russia, and they are working on the wetlands, and they are not involved in the oil and gas sector. So therefore, I think it is particular significant for our country. The pilot site of this project is Plateau Usturt, and it devoted to conserve steppe biome. It's our steppes, simply saying, and it is the main goal of the project is to integrate conservation principles into the operation of oil and gas companies, which simply saying means that obviously companies have to start to think what is the impact or influence they are performing on the environment and on biodiversity in particular.
Taking responsibility.
Absolutely. So they're becoming conscious of that biodiversity conservation is important.
Now we need to think of how the oil and gas companies could be so responsible and how they can perform the activities with the less impact or with compensating the impact.
Okay.
In order to do so, the present project is offering to the government to reconsider their regulations, the governmental regulations in the frame of laws, how to integrate the very important and very popular at the moment and very practicing principle of avoid, reduce, remedy and offset, which simply says that probably after the influencing the environment, the companies were supposed to do the offset, implement offset scheme. That means that they will revitalize destructed environment or biodiversity. And another important thing which project can probably help to our government is to reconsider the procedures of conducting environmental impact assessment. So this is obviously very connected processes among each other.
Guzal, I'm sorry if I have to interrupt you here. I would just like it just on behalf of our listeners and viewers, because some of the terms that you're using are quite technical. And procedures for evaluation of impact.
Environmental impact assessment. In our country, we call it AVOS.
Okay. And to someone who hasn't ever heard of UNDP and what that procedure means in oil and gas is so far away from my everyday life, for example. So how would you put that into simple words? What does that assessment entail? What does it include? What is it?
This is a procedure which any industry development supposed to pass. And it's happening on regular basis.
So it's a formal procedure?
It is formal procedure, and it is evaluating the level of impact of the industry to the environment.
So how much harm it's bringing
exactly
to the surrounding world and environment that we live in.
Not only environment, maybe to the human health as well.
Okay, to the air we breathe and everything. Now I think it's better. It's clearer now, yeah? All right.
Yeah, and I also would like to mention that the project is have been already implementing for 2 years and managed to obtain several very valuable results. First of all, I would like to mention that it is the complexity of the project is that 19 ministries, departments, organizations are working together now. So, and they are representing different sectors, not only, let's say, protecting the nature committee or oil and gas companies. So it's also involves all other committees, ministries, departments, agencies who would indirectly will be implementing this kind of activity.
So basically everyone is taking responsibility in terms of biodiversity conservation.
Yes.
Just to clarify it, is it because their work is relevant in a sense to the conservation of biodiversity, or is it because everyone all of a sudden agreed to take a collective responsibility for our common environment?
Well, I think it is both, because every ministries and agencies, environmental agencies, obviously having their goals. However, some goals are overlapping.
Okay.
And also, sometimes the activities also overlapping. In order to escape this and structuralizing all the activities which will be implemented in the country, that mutual collaboration and work of these agencies, I think, would be more productive and more efficient.
Now comes a very logical question. Is biodiversity conservation profitable for oil and gas? How are they How are they involved in this?
Well, I think they directly depend on this, because gas and oil is its natural resource, and in order to extract them, in order to identify them, they need them. They need the other components of biodiversity or ecosystem. So it's a one big system which helps to form certain resources to be available for the human life and development.
So Guzal, this is very interesting. Tell us which oil and gas companies are partnering with UNDP on this.
Well, certainly they are key partners to this project, and they are working with 5 major operating oil and gas companies in Uzbekistan, such as Uzbekneftgaz, Lukoil, Kogangas, and etc.
Great. So there are a wide variety of companies working in Uzbekistan.
Yeah, the stakeholders are quite...
So now let's go down to the ground. What has been done during these past 2 years? Tell us the activities you've done in Ustyurt Plateau.
Yes, thank you, Lilo, for such an interesting question. And I'm particularly interested in these kind of questions because I'm very proud of what projects have been already done for these 2 years. And first of all, it had prepared a lot of 160 amendments and changes to the law, to the 8 law.
160?
106.
106.
Yes, 106. And also 90 changes and amendments to the OVOS procedure. And also they have formed the interagency working group where 90 ministries and departments and agencies are involved in implementing the project. Also, very significant results have been obtained on the monitoring biodiversity of the Ustyurt Plateau. The 2 expeditions have been taken and great results were obtained. Also, the project has prepared a map of Ustyurt Plateau with 3 different zones, which differs on the allowance of operation of oil and gas companies in the area. And also a very interesting result, which I would like to emphasize, especially because our national partners drawing a particular attention to this, is reorganization of Saigachi Zakaznik, or management area. And the package of documents had been already prepared and submitted to the government for their final approval. And one more, maybe a very interesting and very unusual and very unique result have been done by the project. They produced a cartoon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's called Antelope Step Tail.
Wow.
And I hope soon everybody would be lucky to know and to see this cartoon.
So biodiversity not just in oil and gas sector, but even for little children as well.
Yes, it is. However, it's still having the main goal of understanding it might be influence of human development, human activities, human life on the all components of biodiversity.
That's a very exciting portfolio of outcomes and results, Ghazali, and I'm certainly looking forward to that cartoon, and my little nephew will definitely love it, I'm sure, and it will be a good way of introducing him to this sort of a commitment that UNEP takes in Uzbekistan. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with this, we bring the 4th edition of UNews Weekly to an end.
Absolutely. It was so great to have Ghazal with us today.
And all the other mix of stories that this week has witnessed. And we'll have more stories and developments coming to you from the UN family in Uzbekistan. To stay in touch and to find out more about these stories and other stories of the week, please visit www.un.uz on Facebook, facebook.com/Unique Tashkent. Thank you very much. From me and my colleague Lilo, it's goodbye.